Hey everyone, Laurel here, Minnesota, Zone 5A. I'm just going to do an updated garden tour. Got the rock garden about to bloom. These on the Angelina sedum, those are going to be like acid yellow blooms, and then these are more of like golden yellow when they open, but the buds look really pretty in their coral color as well. We've got the thrift all blooming here. I'm really excited that that is doing well. These cute little pink blooms. That's the same sedum. Of course, the sun just came out as soon as I started tour, so now you'll see my shadow. And then the violas here, I moved from the planter box around the lamppost because I planted the begonias that I got to go in there. The mulch doesn't match, but oh well. And then this cool little patch of six-sided sedum. I love this stuff. This also blooms. It keeps spreading itself around, but not at all invasively. It's just such pretty colors. And very shallow rooted, so very easy to pull up from wherever I don't want it. The smoke bush is also all budded up, getting ready to bloom. And those blooms kind of look like smoke. They're super poofy and wispy, hence the name smoke bush. Tree, that's a tree form. These are the begonias. It's the big leaf bronze begonia that I planted in here. I got a flat of them wholesale through my uncle from Gertens, my connection. Look really pretty with the creeping Jenny there. Super bright chartreuse right now. It's kind of a test. These say they're full sun. They're similar to the surefire begonias from Proven Winners, which are definitely full sun. I grew those last year. And this area is a little bit tricky because it gets full sun for most of the day. The right side over here gets full sun all day. This side gets shade from the smoke bush tree. A lot more shade. So most full sun things do well, but they turn out a little bit uneven. Like one side is bigger and fuller than the other. So we'll see how that does. I did pop some of those violas in here as well. These will fizzle out kind of midsummer, but I'm hoping that they self-seed. I've had violas do that before, and then I just have little violas popping up every year. This is the Heucherella Solar Flare with its white blooms, looking really spectacular. I will be trimming the boxwoods. They definitely need a trim, but we'll see when I get to it. The My Monet Purple Shades Weigela is starting to bloom. Like I had said in my previous video, this is a recovery year for it. It is sending up some new shoots, so it may be more of a rounded shrub again. I'm thinking I will have to... There is a noisy eagle or hawk. Oh, cool. Yeah, a big old hawk flying around. I don't know if you can hear that screeching bird sound. Anyway, I may have to protect that Weigela from snow getting piled up on top of it. That's how it got crushed a couple years ago. Still haven't done anything over with these. This is a Lismachia. Really beautiful foliage, but it is extremely aggressive. I just planted this last year from a 1-gallon plant can. Just a regular perennial sized plant, and look how huge it got. So it's going to take over everything. I need to plant it somewhere else where I don't mind it taking over. So I think I'm going to put it in the back corner of the back garden where I don't care if it takes over. It's kind of weedy there anyways. This little dianthus started to open. These bright like magenta blooms. Was labeled as an annual, but clearly it is perennial in this zone. And then this is a mum. I see some buds. This one buds and blooms earlier in the summer rather than the fall blooming mums. I have 5 surefire rose begonias up here. Those will get really big. And I kind of planted them around this carex that didn't do so well from the winter. So I'm going to try and disguise it a little bit this year. till I figure out what I'm going to do in this whole garden bed, if I'm going to rework things. This carrots looks okay, but I also planted 2 of the, now I forget what kind of, it's Rudbeckia. It's an annual Rudbeckia. I'm forgetting the variety now. That hellebore looks glorious. These hostas I just love. That is Island Breeze hosta. And it has a beautiful variegation, and we got a lot of rain today. So, but then the stems are like red. Very pretty variety. And that is a blue angel. So that my sister helped me transplant that last year from the backyard. Already it has huge leaves. It was planted in my backyard. It was split from plant at my dad's house because it was my dad and stepmom's favorite hosta at their old house. So they split it and gave me a piece when they moved. We've got the 2 white blooming astilbe. I believe these are Deutschland. I said before I get Deutschland and Rhineland mixed up, I think those are Deutschland. This fern gives me hope. The poor ghost fern that was struggling and then I stepped on as I was trimming the tree. So I think that's going to be good. Solomon seal looking good. The back side of the boxwood is where it always gets winter kill. The front side is where the snow piles up. They don't lose their shape or get they get crushed down, but they pop back up. And I think that the snow saves them from getting winter kill. So I trimmed the dead branches out. Those will fill in over time. But also it's facing the house, so I don't really care. And then I had forgotten I moved a blue hosta back here that was up front here where I planted these purple heuchera. These might be obsidian. I can't recall now. But it always got scorched and it lost its blue leaves, so I popped it back there along with another Deutschland astilbe that's getting engulfed. You can't even really see it. It's getting engulfed by the boxwood, but that will emerge once I am able to trim that up. Yeah, look at this. Holy moly. Blooms yellow, very pretty. I will definitely have to trim that back. Transplant it. We've got the opening act phlox, 2 of them here putting on blooms. That one is opalescent, so kind of whitish with pink. This is what the Rudbeckia looks like. Planted a few of them over here. I think I need to move that one over a bit though. And then the Caesar's brother iris, putting out its buds, so that blooms purple, those 2. And I did my container here. 3 Supertunia mini vistas. We've got Violet Star, White, and Midnight. All 3 Supertunia mini vistas. So I expect those will, very vigorous, those will fill out and drape over. The String Theory Amsonia is blooming. Looks really pretty. Light sort of icy blue blooms. And then I planted the last 3 of the Nemesia Inca over here as well. I just love, this is probably my favorite color. I planted Tropical last year, which I loved, kind of orange and red coral hues, but I love this bright yellow with that gold in the center. And they're so fragrant. They smell so good. Then we've got heuchera. Again, all I know is that one's caramel. The other purple ones I don't recall now. And then these, I think those are champagne. I have 3 of those. And then the, this is an experiment too. I don't know if this will stay blue or if it's going to get too much sun. That is a blue shadow Fothergilla, and that tends to be like an understory shrub. So that means it's grows more underneath other trees, so it gets dappled sun rather than full sun. But the eaves of the house kind of shade this corner of the house, so we'll see. And then the limoncello barberry looks really pretty this year too. Really gold, and you can see the sort of orange-red modeling on the leaves. My shadow's right in the way. So I'll take you to the back. There's a lot of things changed back there as well. I forgot to show, this is what I did with the rest of the violas that were up in that window box. I planted them under the Valley Forge elm, our boulevard tree, and kind of remulched. Grass was really encroaching towards the tree anyways, so there's no mulch. I just put some compost. I dug a little bit around the root flare and backfilled with compost, planted the violas, and then mulched. So hopefully they will also self-seed themselves there, because that would be lovely. Okay, to the backyard now. I have started planting my annuals. I'll do a separate video to show how I create my containers. So watch for that. We've got the Kinsley's Ghost Honeysuckle starting to bloom. You can see every end of those leaves. It's just full of buds. And they bloom. Let's see, this one's kind of started to open on this side. They bloom like a pale yellow. They don't have the long tubular orange flowers like you think of with most honeysuckle. The pollinators, bees, hummingbirds still love them. Love the blooms, but they're also not super fragrant. This variety is grown for the foliage because the leaves look a lot like eucalyptus. They keep that kind of cool blue-green color. And those really rounded leaves kind of facing out like that. So while the blooms are nice, I just grow it for the foliage. We've got 3 of the Rock and Grow sedum. I think this is called Back in Black. These 2 were planted a year before the one on the end. That is why they're different sizes. I've got a little bit. I always have alyssum seed itself in here. And then this. So there is a chunk of rudbeckia that survived back here. That's putting on its buds. This grass lived. That was an annual rush grass. I actually have another one there in that pot. Right back there. But in the fall, I just took it out and popped it in the ground because there was nothing here because the rudbeckia had died. And I went to dig it out. I got a little spade and started digging it out, and it looked like it was growing new roots, so I decided to leave it, and sure enough, it's putting out new growth. So it was survived this winter. We've got the zipper heuchera down there, fragrant bouquet hosta. The tiny wine 9-bark is all full of buds. This will bloom kind of a light pink, almost white, just be covered in blooms. Really beautiful. We'll be transplanting those phlox eventually once I get around to it. But I have another phlox here. And the lamb's ear is going to bloom. I do let it bloom. I don't cut these off till after it's done blooming. Another thing that the pollinators love. And the lady's mantle blooms at the same time. So you have these beautiful sort of chartreuse colored yellow. This isn't opened yet, but chartreuse yellow blooms with the cool silvery foliage of the lamb's ear, and then they bloom purple blooms, really pretty together. The dogwood, more branches got weighed down by the rain. So I'll see, you can see one kind of creeping into the St. John's wort there. I don't know if that'll pop back up. I might just trim it off. But the blooms are almost done on the dogwood. It blooms white. But then all of these, they're starting to form berries. Those will be white berries. So I hesitate to cut it off because I don't want to cut off the berries. And because I only pruned out big branches, it really bloomed a lot this year. We've got a mystery hosta, very sun tolerant, whatever it is. I don't like tulip foliage. This is why I'm not planting more tulips, because the foliage looks ugly as it dies back. Over here it kind of works out because it gets covered up by hostas, so I don't have to look at it, although it doesn't get as much sun, obviously. They shade it out. But this patch of tulips keeps coming back, so just going to let it be. I've got another fragrant bouquet hosta. This one's getting big now. I can probably split this next year and get some more plants out of it. That is the Autumn Frost. That is my absolute favorite hosta. It starts out, the leaves are kind of creamy yellow, and then they turn more white as the summer goes on. And this one's getting good size. This is a miniature hosta. It's called Mini Skirt. I love the variegation and kind of the curly leaves. And it works perfectly here because these bigger hostas, which are more sun tolerant, shade it a little bit, give it a little shade. So we've got curly fries back here, this little wiggly one, and then Vulcan hosta. I also leave, and then a ligularia. This is Desdemona ligularia back there. Oh, there's the cat. Sorry, kitty, I didn't see you. But I also leave the front of this dogwood, the branches a little bit long, because in the morning the sun comes straight across here, and so it's not until afternoon that this bed is shaded. I don't have any full shade spots unless it is shaded by another plant in my yard, by a much bigger plant. So these branches kind of protect these plants a little bit. And then we've got Chelone turtlehead over here. 3 patches of it. Got those on clearance. Those bloom late in the summer, around end of August. And one smaller plant here. This one got crushed at one point, but it's also younger than the others. So I'm hoping that will establish itself. Ghost fern, looking absolutely marvelous. Usually looks good at the beginning of the year, and then as we get into the heat of summer, it gets more sun. It gets dry over here because it's under the arborvitae hedge, and usually it kind of crisps up. So I've been thinking about moving it for a while. I thought I did last year, but evidently I was wrong. So we'll see. This is a heuchera. Kind of like looking glass, but it is not looking glass. I don't know what it is. I tried to find another one years ago after I bought it, and I could not find it anywhere, so I kind of forgot the name and gave up looking. Got Solomon seal looking beautiful, and then the Dicentra is putting out. This just blooms all summer, putting out more blooms. And this Dianthus started blooming too. You can see really like cool toned hot pink. And then the GM. I think this one is totally tangerine. I'm pretty sure, but the GM blooms opened up. I just love how wispy they are. So happy, so pretty. I always keep these little squiggly plant supports there because the blooms tend to flop later on until I'm ready to cut them when all the color's gone. Here's another rock and grow sedum. I don't recall the variety. I got this super clearance at the end of the season. I just love how the water looks. See all those raindrops on there? So beautiful. Put out my concrete pot. Getting ready to plant. I did plant. This is the Rockin' Golden Delicious Salvia from Proven Winners. It blooms red, but it likely will not bloom this summer. But it gets huge. I had it in a pot last year. It outgrew several pots until I finally plunked it in the ground over here, and it did great for the rest of the year. But that bright, bright foliage is a nice pop in the shade over here. The 3 Bobo hydrangeas look fabulous. They did great with the transplant, and they're loving all the rain that we are getting. And then we've got Lily of the Valley back here, encroaching from, I think it must have been planted here years ago. And then a bunch, I think one of these is Hudson Bay. I want to say it's that big one here with the large variegated leaves. I don't recall. Again, I got a bunch of these on super clearance when places were doing 75% off. This one might be Some in Substance, which it is way too close to everything else if it is, because that one gets huge. And then this is a variegated Brunnera. Looks like we got some insect damage on there. Those blooms are almost done, so maybe a week or so I'll trim that up. And I always have violas come up in here, although since we put the cat food for the feral cat out, I don't know about that, but that'll have to move. We've got the other Jacob's Ladder started blooming. Darker purple, huge tall bloom stalks. And that one behind it is about to sending up bloom stalks too. This one's blooms are about done and they're kind of flopped over, so I'll come in and trim that pretty soon. This red-berried elderberry is done blooming and it's starting to set berries. It is really full of berries this year, but they're bright red. Very pretty. And I'll trim these branches eventually. Usually the berries show up and then the birds eat them pretty quickly. So once that's done, I will trim up these branches. It grows so fast, you can trim these really hard. And I do have to every year. That is Rainbow's End hosta. Absolutely beautiful hosta. More of a medium size. That's been there a couple years now. Another variegated Bruna. And then we've got a whole bunch of blooms on the Ajuga, and it is starting to fill in where it thinned out over the winter. So we've got the Feathered Friends. I think this one is Fancy Finch, the Chartreuse. And then this is an older variety that variegated with pink and kind of sage green. And we've got buds forming all over the Jackmanii clematis here. And this one now is starting to take off. They take a couple years to establish once you plant them. But so last year it bloomed for a little bit, kind of stayed kind of small. This year it's really taking off, so I'm pleased with that. A couple more patches of Solomon seal and a lungwort. And then we've got, I'm loving how this little hosta garden is really starting to fill out. This is a few years old as well. Now finally starting to establish. I will be, so where they took the tree out, you can see I put the stump back just to put a planter on it, and we've got kind of patchy grass. I will be cutting out, shaping this so it's more of like a curved garden bed going through here to meet the other one. But for now I just have the bricks and stuff. It just kind of looks messy. I do battle creeping bellflower in this garden. I didn't spray that one. I sprayed everything else that I could find over here with Roundup. That is the only way to get rid of it because the rhizomes go 12, 18 inches deep. And I can't excavate out 18 inches here because it is full of tree roots. It just keeps popping up no matter what I do. Roundup is the only thing that gets rid of it. I used to be completely covering this area, and slowly over time I've taken it back. So these two hosta are called Praying Hands. One of these hostas I know is called Royal Wedding. I want to say it's this one. That one in the back is another Blue Angel from my dad and stepmom's garden. We've got the Japanese painted ferns up front. This is a little Heucherella. Don't recall the name of it. Pretty pink blooms though. I would love to continue maybe a little drift of that if I can find the tag with the name once I get rid of this grass. We've got two dwarf goat's beard back here. They're supposed to be the same variety, but their leaves look kind of different, so I don't know. And then a Hakanakloa and a moonlight lungwort. I'm going to be planting up this planter, and like I said, I'll put a planter on top of the stump. We've got a bunch of new growth over here on the Japanese spurge, the Pachysandra. Even this little guy that was all beat up is putting out new growth, so that's going to come back. I just have a bunch of ground covers. This is what I initially tried to do before I knew what the creeping bellflower was. I dug out as much of it as I could, and then I planted ground covers to try and choke it out. But it just comes up right through the ground cover. Because of its rhizomes, you can't ever pull it. So this big plant, I don't think I talked about that before. That is a native bee balm, native Monarda. So the big purple ones, they bloom. Now it's getting, without the spruce trees back here, it's getting a lot more sun. So it's getting really big. These are prone to powdery mildew, even out in the wild. They bloom and then they kind of get powdery mildew and die off. I'm thinking along back here I can plant that. I need to take over more of this grass too. All of this grass eventually, but that Lismachia from up front where it can just kind of run wild. And the three, these were the Cheyenne Sky panicum. I wasn't sure if they were going to come back. I planted them in the fall, but they're back. They just took a while. It took a minute to come back out. So we still have lots of blooms on the Dicentra, the white old-fashioned bleeding heart, looking really pretty. I think it has self-seeded itself a little bit down here, so maybe I'll dig those up and see if I can move them around or give them away. We've got the white Joe Pye weed Butterfly weed here, that's not going to be its final home, but that's where I moved it when they were taking out the trees. The Sun King Aurelia, another Heucherella, Striptease hosta here. Really gorgeous variegation. That was one I forgot I even planted until it started emerging. We've got the blue drinking gourd hosta. This looks better than it ever has, even though it gets more sun. We just had so much rain. We have another couple Heucherella. This bleeding heart kind of goes dormant midsummer. It'll start yellowing and dying back, and I'll slowly trim it away. So that's why I have these other plants kind of close, so that I don't have a big hole halfway through the summer where it was. So they're a little bit crowded at the beginning, but that'll go away, and then they'll have their own space there. That fragrant bouquet hosta, another one back there. This viburnum got huge this year. Really got huge and starting to engulf other things. So I think I'll have to size check that a little bit. Keep it trimmed up. The Trevi Fountain Lungwort is still blooming. This has been going for weeks with these gorgeous cobalt blooms. And you can see its leaves are starting to come in. This one's a little tricky to trim because I can't, before the leaves come in, you can trim it way back, but it's all covered in blue blooms, so I can never bear to do it. So I do come in just one by one and cut away each bloom stalk once they're done without disturbing, trying to preserve as many of the leaves as I can. This pieces of my raised bed I moved around a little bit, but they're still smothering some of the grass that was in here till I have a chance to come and dig it all out. It'll just make it a little bit easier for me. The Veronica that I transplanted is doing well. We have another Heuchera here. And then the Pig Squeak Virginia, looking good. Winter Glow Virginia. Everything's looking great over here. I'm so happy with it this year. We've got the what is the name of this? Bovoico? Hardy geranium. Starting to get its blooms. These like light pink blooms here. Otherwise, it just has this nice, clean looking foliage when the blooms are done for most of the summer. The forever purple Heuchera are the ones that struggled a bit. They got really eaten back by critters and they got stomped on when they were taking the trees out. But they're coming back. We've got Frost Kiss, Penny's Pink. I don't think I'll get any blooms from that one because I think they got just damaged when they took out the trees. But I'm just happy that the foliage back is looking healthy. We have another Dicentra there, and then the wee hosta, that squiggly one. I showed this last time, the ageratum that I planted here is sprouting new growth. They were really root bound, so that's why the leaves look kind of yellow and stressed, but look along the stem. You can do this if you're ever shopping for plants too. Look at all that new growth sprouting. So these are going to fill out and be gorgeous in no time. So we've got 6 of the Artist Blue. There's 3 here and 3 over there from Proven Winners. This is the Aguilera Sky Blue variety, not from Proven Winners, but I wanted to test the difference, so I planted them all together. We've got 2 more Autumn Hot Frost hosta and a Hakanakloa grass right in there. 3 of the Sweet Tea Heucherella, still looking great. And then we've got a little Rocket Ligularia to the right of that mushroom. And then I believe this one is a June hosta. And then that one is stained glass, I think. I'm pretty sure. I kind of forgot that I even planted the stained glass hosta. This is where one of the Blue Angels was, but it was I knew I had to move it. I just didn't have the space yet. So my sister helped me move that up front last summer. And then we've got blooms on this columbine. I do not know what variety is. I can't remember. I started from some from seed, and then I also had clearance plant, and I don't remember which one survived and which one I planted, but it's pretty. Same thing, this dogwood will have white berries. This is the strawberry daiquiri. And then I've got a whole patch of echinacea. I have 3, the original 3, that one, and that one are white. they were mislabeled. They were labeled with a pink variety. I think they're white swan, but they have self-seeded all over. So I'm just letting the seedlings come up as they may. There's another echinacea here that's self-seeded. We've got the Americana salmon geranium. And this is a little mum that was not supposed to be hardy. It's like a burgundy color. Kept coming back for 2 years. This year it's struggling. Normally it would be a big mound, like a big mounded shape, but because it didn't have any snow cover, even though we had a mild winter, I think it was marginal here, but it's alive. The chocolate chip ajuga just looks spectacular. This one just gets so chock full of blooms, and the blooms are so tall. Just a beautiful blue color. I wish they stayed like this all summer because they nicely hide the daylily foliage back there that I dislike, even though the blooms are gorgeous on daylilies. Behind that, we've got the 3 gold barberry that I got on super clearance years ago, like $5 a piece. Actually, that dogwood was on super clearance, $5. Just had like 4 stems on it with like 10 leaves, but I scratched all of wood, the branches, and I could see there was green underneath, so I knew it was alive. So I brought it here, trimmed it back, planted it, and just gave it time, and it filled out. I remember I brought it home, and my mom said, "Are you sure that shrub is actually alive?" Because it looks so bad. But for $5, I figure what is there to lose? And I wanted a variegated dogwood for that spot, so it was perfect. Same thing with these viburnum. I got the 3 viburnum. There used to be 3. They are blooming now, too. I forgot to show that. These beautiful disc-shaped blooms. I love viburnum blooms. I'm hoping I'll get red berries from these this year. These were all $6 a piece. It looked like they had been water stressed, like wherever they were. Okay, sorry about that. My phone died. And while I was charging it, my neighbors came out and are enjoying dinner out on their back patio. So I think I'm going to spin around to the other garden here so I don't disturb them too much. And we'll go over kind of the pollinator garden. Might have to split this into 2 parts because it is getting a bit long. But the cat's pajamas nepeta looks gorgeous here in full bloom. These were just planted in the fall, with the Tor birchleaf spirea right behind it, blooming. These bloom on old growth, so you can see like those are the old stems that are just chock full of blooms. So pretty. And then these are all the new stems coming up this year, new growth, and those don't bloom. But they'll bloom next year, so long as I don't prune them. Oh, but the cat's pajamas, man, it is so vibrant. It is really beautiful and just really long bloom stalks, like just covered in blooms. And these were only planted in the fall. I do need to cut out more of this bed. I kind of was able to expand it just enough to plant all of these things in the fall. Another opening act phlox. I think this pink, I don't remember, it's called Romance Pink, but that's about to bloom. And the sweet tea Heucherella has started blooming over here. That is a limelight prime hydrangea, putting on really strong new growth. And the Amsonia, this is the Blue Star, is what this one is called. Blue Star Amsonia bloom starting to open up. And the lily beetles are still attacking the after 8 lily, but it's looking okay. And then we got so much rain, I was able to get out here and stake up, put some rings around these dwarf goldenrod. And then I did move this hosta, so I have room to put an evergreen in its place. The Weigela here is all full of buds. Some of the blooms have just started here. This one is called, and down at the bottom there on the older stems, this one is called Crimson Kisses. And the blooms are actually not crimson. They're more of like a bright magenta or hot pink, deep hot pink. I've got sedum there, some echinacea. I've got blooms coming on these snapdragons. Those keep sprouting. They come back and they sprout from the roots, so I never pull them up in the fall. I always just leave them. The sedum looks so pretty with the water on it from all the rain we've had. And this is a self-seeded echinacea. Those are the two parent plants. And then that is another self-seeded one, and a couple cobalt leotris back there, and a little lime hydrangea. And then the purple sensation allium are starting to go to seed. That is what these green pods are, and they will eventually turn brown and then start spreading seed. So I will be cutting those before that happens. The clematis here, Barbara Kensington, kind of folded over itself. It is all full of buds, so it'll be really budded up because it folds over itself all the way down. And then I've got two Shenandoah switchgrass emerging over there, and a couple more alliums. The one that's still purple is either Gladiator or Globemaster. Do not recall which one it is. And then there are buds. These are drumstick allium down there, and you can kind of see those little buds starting up in that spot. And walk through here without stepping on things. I did have to put more. I'll have to put a support on this side too. This is the Noblesse Yarrow, and it is really taken off. So I put a little ring support there and one on that side too. This one was here last year, this tall one. So I'll put one on the front side as well so it doesn't choke out the two sedum there. And then the drift rose, this is peach drift rose, is really setting a ton of buds. This one is amazing. Like the rabbits nibbled it all the way down, almost way far down, and it's like it caught up in a month. It caught up to as big as it was last year at the end of the season. So I'm not going to worry too much about rabbits anymore. We do have the Dalmatian peach foxglove starting to open. Those I planted last year. I don't recall if they bloom. Typically foxglove will grow foliage the first year, bloom the second year, set their seed, and then the mother plant dies. But the Dalmatian series will sometimes bloom for 2 years in a row. We've got this Veronica starting to open its blooms as well. More down here, the Anna's Magic Ball. I think I will. These daylilies are just monstrous. Holy smokes. I'm hoping they're really full of blooms this year, though, because they're spectacular blooms. But I put this here to try and hide the foliage, but now the foliage is kind of overtaking it, so I might bump it out a little bit. This is another Proven Winners phlox. Not opening act, but opalescent. What's the line? Opalescent phlox. And I do see it is having some issues at the bottom, so I'm not sure what's going on there. I don't know if that's powdery mildew or what, but this one did awesome last year. Beautiful, like pink cloud blooms. Sorry for the wind. I'm sure you can hear it on the mic. It has been unbelievably windy this spring, just non-stop wind. It's getting old. We've got buds forming on the Shasta daisy, the amazing daisy, and this is what the 4 o'clocks do. They self-seeded. I had them planted here, and so seeds that fell have started to sprout. There's one back there, too. Mighty chestnut daylily there. I did cut back the aster, the likely woods blue aster, but then we've got the zagrabe, the yellow coreopsis coming. Beautiful ferny looking foliage there. There's a better view of the allium buds. And then this is the Summerific Holy Grail hibiscus popping up. Here's a closer view of this allium. Isn't that cool? This is Dr. Seuss poof ball. The beetles are going to town also, even more so on the stargazer lily. So, but this is really neat. I have these are self-seeded cosmos. I had a few different varieties planted here, so I don't know which one's self-seeded. I haven't had them self-seed before, and they're far too close. The blooms are done now on the Rosy Lights azalea, so now it's going to have lovely foliage all summer, but they're far too close to that, so I will be transplanting those to a better spot where they can grow to full size, because even though they're dwarf, they still get huge. We've got a lot of action on the dahlias. I think all of them, some of them you have to get up close, but pretty much all of them are sending up little teeny sprouts now. I only know for sure the variety on about 5 or 6 of them. There are a lot that are a mystery. So Although the dark ones, I do know that those are little ones, at least the dark leaves. But all the green leaves, unless I bought them this year, I'm not 100% sure. So that'll be kind of fun to see that. And flip around here. Strawberries are just, wow, this year is incredible. Look at all those. Look at all those strawberries forming. So the bugs will get some of them. Critters will get some of them, but even then, I still get a lot of strawberries off of this patch. I did seed beans here. One came up, although they're not looking good. I think I'm just going to throw the rest of my bean seeds in here. They're a few years old now, so garlic is looking great in this bed otherwise. This is my solution to the cat issue. I wrapped it in saran wrap, the bed. Coworker gave me that idea, but the cats kept squeezing underneath the saran wrap. I put these up here to create a visual barrier for if they try and jump in. I'm going to have to uncover these zucchini pretty soon. I kept those so that I think they're big enough that they won't get dug up. Same with the peppers, so I can uncover those. But now, since they were squeezing underneath, I put a layer of bricks all the way around. So we'll see if that works. Otherwise, I may have to go get some of that green plastic netting and just wrap it all the way around this whole bed, because they're using this area as a litter box. And I need to seed my carrots, and I also don't want to get E. coli from, feces in my food. So, cute, I know. The Back to the Fuchsia Salvia has started opening. Really, really pretty, and the Walker's Low Nepeta right behind it, too, has started opening. These are hummingbird attractors. I have seen the hummingbirds, and we've got a ton of blooms on the yellow iris over there. Siberian iris. And for once, the sage leaf willow is doing good because we have a nice wet spring, and they like rain. I did plant up, we've got Burgarten sage and a couple kinds of rosemary in here. My backup garlic is also looking great. Look how huge that stalk is. More potato sprouts. And then I did plant up my peppers and the shallots still. So everything's looking good. I can harvest some lettuce, I think, this week. These red lettuces are ready to go while they're still sweet. It's Batavia. They're looking good. I do need to seed some more, though, and get some going. And we've got French tarragon there. More shallots. Pea pods looking great. I planted one of the basil that I started from seed in this corner. This is all new. I had to fight with big chunks of grass to clear this out. And then I seeded cucumbers in here just earlier this week. And then I have in my little squash trellis honey nut squash that I seeded. And we've gotten a lot of rain, so I haven't needed to water this, but hopefully we'll see that coming up soon here. So we'll leave it at that. Maybe I'll do a little part tour of some of the other areas of my garden. I do need to weed the garlic, I see. It's the other part of the rain. The mosquitoes are bad, and, weeds come up no matter what, but lots of weeds. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Please subscribe.